touch the nettle and it hardly stings.
Violet is in a delicate condition.
Dare I ask?
I'm the father.
I'm sad, but I am also happy. Because now you get what your heart desires.
I'm so sorry, Sarah. In all this time, there's been an ache in my heart. Well, I fear you're behaving like an irritating sister.
She's unkind to you.
You're getting married in a few hours.
Yeah.
You're so fully signed up to this.
Yes.
And this is what you want.
Yes, this is what I want.
Kaz, this is mad.
What's mad? What?
I feel like everyone's pretending.
Well, who's pretending?
Everyone. You're pretending Jamila doesn't exist, pretending my Muna doesn't dance, pretending no one has sex. Kaz, you're 32 years old, and your parents don't even know you smoke.
Oh my God, I told you before, that's about respect, Zoe.
This is not a veil on your sins. This is a bloody great burqa shrouding your whole identity.
What do you want?
I don't want you to marry someone you don't love. Life's too short. And too long to marry the wrong person.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Hot ramen? Yeah.
Approximately 17.6% of people will walk away from the love of their life. Oliver was about to be one of them.
Dare I ask, what about love?
You grow to love the person you're with.
What, like Stockholm Syndrome?
First.
Love contractually.
Huh.
Why didn't you tell me? So what do we do now?
Pretend. Like everyone else.
Pretend. It's a cool outbreak of sickness.
What do you mean?
So let's talk about IVF from the perspective of the child. And we can look at the children that are created through IVF and say, afforded all of the dignity that goes along with being human, that all humans made in the image of God need to be afforded. But from the children's rights perspective, we are highly critical of IVF. That's because only about 7% of babies created in vitro, in glass, in the laboratory, will be born alive. The vast majority of children whose conception is presided over by a technician versus in the loving sexual embrace of their mother and father will die. They will never be born alive. They will be donated to research. They will be sex selected or graded out of existence because they aren't fit. But she really wants a girl. So she will create more embryos until she gets the baby that she wants. What's going to happen to those 20 boys? They're going to die. They'll die. And so when we actually look at the way that IVF is practiced, what we see is the baby making industry of IVF and big fertility is responsible for the death of more embryonic life than the baby taking industry, than abortion. By the numbers, IVF destroys more embryonic life than Planned Parenthood does. So we know that this is challenging for pro-lifers. But if you truly believe that life begins at conception and that those children have a right to life, you too will be very critical of IVF, because in almost all cases, it will violate the rights of some child.
That invited me to tell my side of the story as a child born from surrogacy and now fighting against surrogacy. My entire story I will share with you with a lot of sincerity, a lot of humility, but I do think that my words today are important because all too often, unfortunately, we forget the people that are the most affected by surrogacy. But these people, they never give their consent, they never have their word, and those are the children that are born from surrogacy. These children that are ripped from their mothers at birth to be sold to strangers. Kind of like cars that you order from factories, that you, pick options that you may or may not like. And these children are considered just like vulgar objects and products. I am today a product of surrogacy, created, sold, bought, and I'd like to tell you my side of the story so you can understand how it affected me and why today we can't just simply regulate surrogacy. We have to abolish it purely and simply for the good of the child and of course for the rights of children. A child should never be the subject of such a contract, and above all, should never ever be the subject of a transaction. That's when my story all started, even before my own birth. My intended parents met. My intended mother already had a son with another man. My parents had a very successful business, very, very smart people. I have to give them that. And surrogacy to them was the only option rather than giving up on having a child. Selfish decision, I believe, but it's their story. My parents first gave the agency, of course, a list of criteria concerning the woman that what she should look like. I personally was born through traditional surrogacy, not gestational surrogacy, so my surrogate mother is biologically related to me. Even though, to my opinion, it makes absolutely no difference if the mother is biologically linked to the child or not, because to me, the mother is the one who has the child inside her womb for 9 months and, of course, gives birth to the child. 1991, my parents had a surrogate mother, but she wasn't holding the embryos. And so they had to be rematched with what would be my biological mother. And thankfully, she got pregnant only 2 months after signing the contract. It's often said that the agencies look at women's psychology through very thorough tests, that they make sure they don't have any debt to pay, but we know that that's not true. $14 billion was the surrogacy market in 2022. And do you honestly think that we're going to look too closely at women who might even lie during their interviews? I don't think so. My case is a perfect example. My biological mother, and she wasn't mentally stable. She had a huge history with depression. But on top of that, just before I was born, she had lost a son, age of 2.5 years old, in an absolute tragic domestic accident. So I think you can put yourself in her place. Mentally, she wasn't there at all. She was completely devastated after that. She was in debt, and she had to put on a brave face for her family, her children, and her husband. This agency that only saw what it wanted to see when it hired her, and that's the money that she could generate. The abuse of the situation of a woman that needed money to feed her children and pay her bills. So I was born on December 10th, 1991, a date that was chosen actually by my intended parents because, funny enough, it fell between my intended mother's birthday, who was born on December 5th, and my biological mother, who was born on December 15th. I had to be a Christmas baby, actually. But even that was decided for me. Can you imagine? In surrogacy, births can even be planned out and decided, and I'm not quite sure how that is in the best interest of the child. Finalize the transaction into the arms of my adoptive parents, whom I didn't know. And that, unfortunately, was the first trauma that would write the rest of my life, the trauma of abandonment. Signs of the trauma of abandonment: my parents couldn't leave me, sleepovers, parties, I would go in this hysterical crisis, and so they couldn't leave me. I was just afraid, unfortunately, that I would suffer a second abandonment every time they left me. But at that point in time, I was already going through an inner battle. How could I build myself without knowing where I came from?
About IVF and how that violates children's rights, but as kind of a topic that we just don't want to talk about because it can be offensive to someone. Well, often a lot of us know somebody who has gone through IVF, or we have gone through IVF ourselves. That does not mean that your perspective cannot change. And I want you to listen to this. Listen to it with an open mind. Listen to what Katie's saying. And obviously she's got science to back up everything that she says. So we're advocates for life. And if we are advocates for protecting children, we have to do what's best for children. We as adults have to do the hard things for children instead of making children do hard things for us.
IVF and surrogacy and sperm and egg donation. But it's not because we went into this going, hey, you know what? We need to critique big fertility.
Yeah.
The whole purpose, the whole platform, our mission is to defend children's rights to their mother and father. We are talking about the distinctives of what men and women offer children. We are talking about the importance of that bond with your biological parents and the safety and the identity that tends to naturally lend itself to when children are being raised by their own married mother and father. And so we're coming from the place of child defense in terms of defending their right to be known and loved by the two people responsible for their existence. So that's what we do. That's what we're all about. That's our big platform. Yeah. And that is why we critique big fertility. That is why we're critical of IVF. We talk a lot about reproductive technologies these days, but it's not because we're an organization that exists to critique the fertility world. It's because we're an organization that defends children's rights in the family, and that means that we will oppose the vast majority of what takes place in the world of fertility clinics today.
Turns out our marriage was more insisted than assisted.
That's not possible. They're a modern family. Everybody was so happy at the wedding.
We're divorced.
Divorced? Kya keh raha hai? What do you mean? Just like...
All you have to say is, I divorce you. I divorce you. I divorce you.
Oh, really? I wish we had that here.
Say what is, the spirit of the world is false love. It's false love. Because the world says, if you love me, you will allow me. It's equating true love with getting my way. Which is Satanism, because it really equates to do what thou will. So the world is teaching you that if you love somebody, you will allow them. So it's a false love.
You wouldn't do anything for anybody but yourself.
That is unfair.
Unfair.
That is
You
unfair.
abandon people when they need you the most.
I don't abandon people.
Stand
I have stood by you,
somebody.
and I've stood by him. I have done everything to be a good father to him.
You have done no such thing.
I married you because of him.
I know you don't love me.
The family like a performance.
We can thank for those problems, don't we?
Objectively, that is not a choice for life.
Then they send me away, teach me how to be sensible, logical, oh, responsible, practical. And then they show me a world where I could be so dependent.
Love of mine, someday you will die.
I don't want the control.
Love of mine, someday you will die, but I'll be.
Everybody, come on.
Oh, you fuck you.
fucking do me! Fuck you, I won't do what you say! Fuck you, I won't do what you say!
Good idea.